Not in my name. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. You've heard all week about this pending settlement between Omar Khadr and the Government of Canada, led by Justin Trudeau and his Liberals. Now, there's several problems I have with this, including the cowardly way that Trudeau allowed it to come out into public. One, he waited until Parliament wasn't sitting anymore. He knew this was coming, but he didn't want parliamentary scrutiny. Secondly, he didn't want media scrutiny, so he has not announced this. In fact, he's only made one statement about it, and that was in Dublin, Ireland, on Tuesday. On Tuesday, when he said that, well, this is part of an ongoing judicial process. What he actually knew at that point and wouldn't tell the public is that a settlement had already been reached, because what we know now is that Omar Khadr was paid on Wednesday. The check was cashed quickly, and there's not much that anybody can do about it anymore. Now, on Friday morning, the public apology was issued. I want to read to you from that public apology and then, well, play you some of the government reaction that they put forward in their news conference. Not from Justin Trudeau, but from several of his cabinet ministers. The public apology says, "Today we are announcing that the Government of Canada has reached a settlement with Mr. Omar Khadr, bringing this civil case to a close. On behalf of the Government of Canada, we wish to apologize to Mr. Khadr for any role Canadian officials may have played in relation to his ordeal abroad and any resulting harm. We hope that this expression and the negotiated settlement reached with the government will assist him in his efforts to begin a new and hopeful chapter in his life with his fellow Canadians. The details of the settlement are confidential between Mr. Khadr and the government." All right, first off, they're telling you you don't get to know anything about it. You just get to pay the money. Meanwhile, during their news conference, Ralph Goodale, Jody Wilson-Raybould, the Justice Minister, they're all just standing there defending the indefensible, giving $10.5 million and a public apology to a self-confessed terrorist.
So let me be clear. A Canadian citizen's charter rights were violated. As a result, the Government of Canada was required to provide a remedy.
Everybody is floating that $10.5 million amount. Why not confirm or deny it?
The Government of Canada is bound by a confidentiality agreement. Someone has chosen to speculate about a number and put a number in the public domain, but it should not be the Government of Canada that violates its legal obligations. That's the key point here.
Don't you think Canadian taxpayers are entitled to know what you guys are doing with their money?
Well, this today brings an end to the civil suit that was launched against the Government of Canada by Mr. Khadr. In his suit, he had asked for $20 million. We have come to a settlement agreement between the parties, and I would also underscore that we came to the settlement because of the Supreme Court of Canada decisions that indicated that we had violated Mr. Khadr's charter rights.
There's so much to unpack from what's happened over the last few days, from the cowardly way that Trudeau put this out, no parliamentary scrutiny, no media scrutiny. He's not going to wear this publicly at all, although he should until the next election. And the Conservatives and the NDP, who probably support Khadr getting the settlement, should make him wear this because of the, well, less than open and transparent way that it's all come about. But I want to tackle three key issues. One is the fact that this settlement should be public. We should know the details. Secondly, no court has ever ordered that a settlement of this magnitude be released. And then third, the ongoing issue that Khadr was a child soldier, his rights were violated, therefore we had to do this. Let's start with that one. First off, as I've already explained previously, Omar Khadr has not met anybody's definition of a child soldier. The optional protocol, let me read to you from it. It's the optional protocol on the rights of the child as it relates to armed conflict. And Khadr was 54 days short of his 16th birthday when he was caught on the battlefield on July 27th, 2002. And at that time, what was the definition of a child soldier? Pretty much the same as it is today, someone under the age of 15. Not 18, but 15. Let me read to you from the treaty that came into force earlier that year in 2002. Noting the adoption of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, in particular the inclusion therein as a war crime of conscripting or enlisting children under the age of 15 or using them to participate actively in hostilities in both international and non-international armed conflict. Now, Omar Khadr was over the age of 15. Yes, he was under 18, but all that this international optional protocol does is say that if you're under 18, that countries should take all feasible measures not to put you in battle. Let me read to you from further down in the treaty. State parties shall take all feasible measures to ensure that members of their armed forces who have not attained the age of 18 years do not take part in hostilities. Couple things here. Well, Omar Khadr was not a member of a state party. He was not acting on behalf of a national government. He was acting on behalf of Al-Qaeda or the Taliban. So he's a member of one or possibly two terrorist organizations. He was not a usual soldier. He did not wear a uniform and behave in the usual ways. Everybody wants the Geneva Convention to apply to Omar Khadr when the US or Canada are the parties in question, but they don't want it to apply to Omar Khadr for his own actions. He was not a child soldier. It did not meet the definition, not from the UN, not from the International Committee of the Red Cross, not then, not now, not ever. That's number one. Number two, let's take a look at what the Supreme Court said. There were two cases involving Omar Khadr. The first decision came out in 2008. The main one that everyone keeps citing came out in 2010, Canada v. Khadr. Well, the Supreme Court was asked to rule on whether Omar Khadr should be repatriated. They said that his Section 7 rights were violated, but they never said that the government of Canada had to act to bring him back. Why? Because that is what is called executive prerogative. The Supreme Court is loath to tell any government how they have to act or interact with another foreign government, because those are very delicate matters, there's a lot of factors involved, and it's not something so cut and dry that the courts can get involved in. That's right in the decision. Let me read to you from that decision. We have concluded that the Canadian government breached Mr. Khadr's Section 7 rights in 2003 and 2004 through its participation in the then illegal military regime at Guantanamo Bay. The question at this point is whether the remedy now being sought, an order that the Canadian government asked the United States to return Mr. Khadr to Canada, is appropriate and just in the circumstances. Later on in the decision, they say, no, not really. At the time of the interviews in March 2004, he had been suspected or subjected to improper treatment by U.S. authorities. The decision goes on. This said judicial review of the exercise of the prerogative power for constitutionality remains sensitive to the fact that the executive branch of government, meaning cabinet, is responsible for decisions under this power, and that the executive is better placed to make such decisions within a range of constitutional options. It follows that in these circumstances, it would not be appropriate for the court to give direction as to the diplomatic steps necessary to address the breaches of Mr. Khadr's charter rights. They said his rights were violated. You come up with a solution. The solution was that eventually he was repatriated once he had gone through the court proceedings in the United States. The United States were never going to give up Omar Khadr. It didn't matter whether it was Jean Chrétien who asked, because that's who was in power when he was first captured. Wouldn't matter if it was Paul Martin. That's who was in power when his rights were allegedly violated. It wouldn't matter if it was Stephen Harper, who was in power for much of Khadr's detention. The U.S. was never giving him up until he had gone through their judicial system. And whatever we may think of the courts at Guantanamo, do you think that that's a better judicial system than Afghanistan, where Khadr had been living before he was captured? Do you think it's a fairer system with checks and balances? If you say no, then you're a fool, because the people at Gitmo were able to get all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States and have the Supreme Court order those legal proceedings to change. Thus, the Supreme Court of Canada's reference to the then illegal court proceedings at Guantanamo. Omar Khadr doesn't deserve any of the money that he's getting right now. It is, as I say, not in my name. And if you're on Twitter, I encourage you to use that hashtag, not in my name. No court ordered Justin Trudeau to make this settlement with him. No court ordered Justin Trudeau to offer an apology on behalf of the government of Canada, and therefore in your name. Has Jean Chrétien, Liberal leader, had Jean Chrétien been in power right now, do you know what he would be doing? He would be fighting this in court. He would be saying, I'm not giving a penny to that little terrorist until a court orders me to. And I'm quite confident that if the Supreme Court ordered Jean Chrétien and his Liberal government to pay $10.5 million to Omar Khadr, or $20 million, or even $2 million, he would have dragged his feet in getting the check out. What Justin Trudeau and his team did was rush the check out to try and make sure that Omar Khadr got the money, put it in an offshore bank account or in a corporation or somewhere before Tabitha Speer, the widow of Sergeant First Class and Medic Christopher Speer, could get a court injunction to stop it, to try and recover some of the money based on the lawsuit that she launched and won in the United States over the wrongful death of her husband, a man who was going through the battlefield after it was over, looking for survivors and the wounded. That's what he was doing when Omar Khadr threw that grenade. He doesn't deserve the money. He doesn't deserve an apology. What the government of Canada should be doing is standing up for, well, the taxpayers first and foremost, or no, taxpayers come later. What they should be standing up for first and foremost are our veterans and the families of the fallen, and then the taxpayers. And in doing that, they would be fighting this in court and refusing to give in until the courts gave them an order. But Justin Trudeau and his Liberals, global citizens that they are, don't see anything wrong with taking up arms against Canada. A Canadian is a Canadian as a Canadian, Justin Trudeau loves to say, even if that means you are taking up arms against the country of your birth, the country of your choice, the country that has given you opportunity. Shame on them. Remember, tweet about this, tweet out this video, tweet out this story, and use the hashtag #NotInMyName. Register your disapproval, tell your fellow Canadians about it, and make sure that come 2019, Justin Trudeau wears this and pays for it at the ballot box. If you like the Rebel video you just watched, make sure you never miss another one again. Click here to subscribe to our YouTube channel.